Hey Reggie.
What's up? How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. Alive.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I just want to start off the video by telling our viewers that we're going to be continuing the conversation about diversity and inclusion.
Okay.
We did a part one on Facebook last week, and that went pretty well. So I'm very excited to continue the conversation today, and I am glad you could join me.
It's a pleasure, man. It's always a pleasure. So
It's
looking forward to it.
awesome. So to start off the conversation, I want to let you know that a couple days ago I was reading a post on a forum, and the writer was talking about how she felt like a lot of people in the Black community are immigrants who are speaking up, and she felt like because um, these Black people were immigrants that they didn't necessarily understand um, the experiences of being Black in America,
Yeah.
um, especially as it relates to Black Americans who are descendants of slaves.
Yeah.
So, my first question to you, as a young Black man who is Haitian American, you've never lived in Haiti before, but your parents have. They lived there at some point, but you were born here. All your experiences have been in America. So I'm curious to hear from you, from that perspective, what it's like for you um, as a Black Haitian American to be living here. Do you feel like you can speak on the experiences that a lot of Black people and Black young men experience?
Yeah. That's a good question. Can I ask you a question real quick? Was that person who wrote that, was she a Black American or was her mother?
I'm actually not sure
No.
because
Okay.
I
That's fine.
I didn't try to find out. I just
Gotcha.
thought that it was a really interesting
Yeah.
post, because
Yeah.
it was kind of like there's so many different voices in the Black community, and her kind of making the distinction on who she felt like could talk on these experiences was quite interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think that whole concept is very layered. So there's a lot to me. There's a lot of layers with that. First and foremost, I do want to say that my experience as a Haitian American in America, born and raised, is gonna be different slightly than somebody who's a Black American based off of
Hmm.
history. I think one thing that we can all appreciate, especially with everything going on with our country, is that history is important and it's relative to how we experience our day to day. So
Right.
the fact that I come from a Haitian background does make a difference. And I'll say to this extent, at least in my opinion, when you look at um, Black people in America who come from Haiti or Jamaica or even Nigeria, from that are
Hmm.
Black Americans, but they're not African Americans, how we understand like foundationally
Hmm.
African American. Um, our our lineage. So when I come to this country, my parents came to this country to make a better life for themselves, and they did
Right.
that. I'm the first generation to actually be born here when it comes to my parents. So
Hmm.
the whole concept of my existence in America is to strive and to be ambitious and to get something and to grow. So because of
Hmm.
that, you see a lot of Nigerians, you see a lot of Haitians. They come here, and I mean, within a generation or two, we're climbing and we're progressing. Versus African Americans who, in their history, they have been here for so long. Their great grandparents had to fight against, during the 1920s, the racism that was going on, the Jim Crow, the
Hmm.
segregation. Then their kids went and tried to, form their own communities, and they got burnt down
Right.
by race riots of white people. So there's been a psychological effect of just the consistent knee on the throat for Black
Hmm.
Americans to the point where it's like, Mom, I want to be this, or Dad, I want to be that. Man, them white people ain't gonna let you do nothing, man. So the mentality
Mm-hmm.
that gets passed down from generation to generation can be slightly different. So you like, I'm not saying everybody grows up in the hood, but you can grow up in the hood. Your grandma lived down the street. Your auntie lives up the block, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
what happens is because by generations they've been forced into these areas, into this
Right.
mindset. A lot. It's
Right.
hard for them to see to rise above. Versus us, we come from Haiti. We get here, and all we see is the opportunities because we haven't been psychologically put into a
Mm-hmm.
position like that. So I do think the experience is different to that extent that
Mm-hmm.
historically we can kind of see things differently. But on a grander scheme, on a grander thing, I think especially being that I'm from the Caribbean islands, Haiti was the first, as we know, the first and only,
Right.
pretty much only the first successful slave revolt.
Mm-hmm.
As far as speaking today against the racism and the systemic racism that we experience in America, I think that that's something that is not only unique to Black Americans who are foundationally Black Americans, because it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter if I'm Haitian American. If when I experience racism, they don't ask me if I'm Haitian before they they stereotype me like that. Even on a bigger scheme and a bigger perspective, back in those days when Haiti initially got their freedom, it's funny. That's when the whole concept of martial law actually came into place, because the
Mm-hmm.
word spread that there's a Black republic, there's a Black country where they're saying,
Right.
hey, if you can come here. So there's a unity that used to be there, whether you're in Brazil, Jamaica, Haiti,
Mm-hmm.
America, that we understood we were brothers and sisters, and their fight is our fight. You understand?
Right.
So I think it's a little bit divisive to think that just because historically that somebody's family isn't from America, that they shouldn't speak
Mm-hmm.
on these. I think white people should be speaking on this. I think Spanish people, it doesn't matter who you are. The whole issue of systemic racism, everybody should be speaking on that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Absolutely.
think our heritage. I don't think somebody being an immigrant, that shouldn't disqualify them from speaking on it. But I do think we should also understand the perspective that we're speaking on it, and even myself, when I speak against it, I'm careful to say that I'm Haitian American. So like my parents weren't fighting civil rights in America, but there
Mm-hmm.
is systemic racism that affects my blood too. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So when I speak
Mm-hmm.
about
Mm-hmm.
it, it's important to be informed and speak on it in a grand scheme as well. But I don't think it disqualifies people from really talking against it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I definitely appreciate your perspective on that particular divide, I guess. So when it comes to being a Black man in America, what is it like for you when you see all these different things happening in the country right now? So George Floyd, Mike Brown, Trayvon Martin. I mean, all these different individuals who have lost their lives by the hands of the police. Like, as a Black man, how does that feel for you?
It's a lot. I mean, I remember. I think at first it's just the emotions. They you go through various states of emotions. At first, it's you're enraged, you're frustrated, you really don't
Mm-hmm.
understand, and then you're trying to, because it's hard to live in a state like that mentally. So you
Mm-hmm.
kind of try to find your peace in it all, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very difficult, and especially like when all this is going on, working in an environment like I personally, I'm the only Black guy on the management team. So working in an environment where you're around a lot of white people or people who just don't
Mm-hmm.
understand, and having to
Mm-hmm.
have these conversations over and over again, it's just very tiring. It's having the
Mm-hmm.
same conversation and truly trying to
Mm-hmm.
explain what it's like. It's very hard because, like like systemic racism and what we experience in America as Black men, it's so ingrained and it's so rooted and it's so woven, and it's literally a part of where it is American, the fabric of America, that when you speak against it, people feel like you're speaking against America,
Mm-hmm.
and so
Mm-hmm.
trying to help people to understand that is difficult, and it's almost draining is the word. Yep, draining. It's just draining because you're
Mm-hmm.
consistently having to like the whole Rashad Brooks thing, oh, he shouldn't have ran or he shouldn't have pulled the taser. But like the fact that he's afraid of interacting with the troops is the problem. You know what I'm saying? Like having to explain.
Or not having the conversation at all.
Yeah. So exactly. So it's just draining. It's really draining.
So I know that you got married last year, and I'm going to assume that you guys are going to want to have kids and, you know, have a family and all of that. So, and thinking about everything that's going on right now, like, how are you with thinking about bringing kids into this world as it is now? Like, what are some things that you would like to see change in your lifetime so that your children can have a better future?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, and I think, like you said, like especially with racism, it's progression, right? It's sad that, to be honest, in my opinion, in my lifetime, are we going to see racism in America gone? I don't know. You know, so I would love to see, like you said, to see things get better. To be honest, I want to see more opportunities for Black people to be successful economically. I want to see more legislation that moves in the way to make things better for Black people in America. Specifically, I mean, there's certain things that I think people are kind of pushing for right now. But to be honest, like in my experience, like as a Black person in America and what America is, it's really tough. It's really tough to kind of pinpoint, because right now it's not there are certain things that are kind of outright racist, but right now it's just like the country just don't like us, you know, like it's not like we're fighting for the right to vote or anything like that. Like we've gotten those things, but now it's just the idea that Black people are equal, and it's hard to really fight for that.
Right.
So more so for me with, you know, the idea of having kids, the idea of having kids and like, you know, how, you know, what's the concepts and what are the things I'm kind of concerned about. I think it's more so just equipping them. I think it's more so just doing my best to prepare them for the world, because, and not to minimize what we experience as Black people, but this world it's a fallen world. There's always going to be injustice. There's always going to be certain things. So it's not a mindset of hopelessness, but it's more so you got to equip them to fight, because there's going to be a fight regardless in this world. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, I definitely like that perspective, you know, just kind of preparing them for that world, you know, and teaching them what you can. My next question for you has to do with the article that I sent to you the other day. I'm just really curious to hear your thoughts. And for the people watching, just to kind of give you guys a background on this article. It was an article that somebody wrote addressing some of the white supremacy themes that are seen within Christian circles and how the Bible is taught and all of that. So what are your thoughts on that when it comes to churches and church leaders standing up with Black people and other minorities of color? What are your thoughts? Just talk to me. I'm really curious.
Yeah, it's like I'm still in the I guess in the middle of processing all that, because I think it's something it's large and it's kind of ongoing. My thoughts are that we kind of got to start digging into our history. I think, like I said from the onset, like I think everything that's going on has made me appreciate history more and appreciate where we come from more, because the history of the church, I mean, how things got political and how things got, you know, economic and those things like that happened way back, you know, once, you know, Catholic Church started and all those different things. It makes me really start to question those things, because those kind of establish the footing that we stand on our American church on today. So now when it comes to our American church today, we don't even see how like embedded racism is into our American church, you know? Like even if we take it very simply, like the images of a white Jesus, like how the history in the Bible has been whitewashed to where we present everything as there are white people. The fact that we have Black churches and white churches. I mean, the fact that even I don't know the facts off the top of my head, but I remember I think the start of the Kojic, COGIC, the Kojic Church.
Okay.
I believe we have. I'll look up and then I'll shoot it to you. But
Right.
even the start of that, like that denomination, where the case was, I believe it was like an offshoot because they weren't accepted within like a white denomination or something like that. I have to look up the history. But there's definitely like embedded racism in our churches. So now when it comes to like white pastors or white church leaders or church leaders in general, taking a stand with Black people, I think it's important. But it's another thing where people have to get educated on the history of our country, the history of the church in general, so you can take the proper stance. Because I've seen people try to speak on it and not really understand it. They're speaking from a perspective that stands on privilege, or they're speaking from a perspective that's built from racism. So to speak against the system that upholds what they're a part of, it doesn't make sense to them. So they try to make sense out of it, and it comes off
right.
So, so like I said, I'm in the middle of processing how how our American Christianity kind of stands in the midst of all of this. But it's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, for sure. And then I have one last question for you. I actually need to check on the time because I don't have a watch with me. I don't want to X out of this so I don't close it.
It's 6:48.
Okay, thank you. So do you have any personal examples that you would feel comfortable sharing as far as your experiences with racism, even if it was something overt or like a micro aggression or something like that you would feel comfortable sharing?
Yeah, if I was to talk about microaggressions, we'd be here for all night. Like I said, I'm the only Black guy in my management team, and even like my previous jobs, I've been the only Black guy in the department both times. So microaggressions are just a common experience. Like that's like every day. But as far as overt racism, I'll give you two examples really quick. The first one was when I was like in middle school. I was walking home with my friend. And at that point, we lived in a gated community. It was a nice community, affluent community, I guess I could say. And we're walking home from the activity bus, so we went to practice, and we were walking home late. And police officer just pulls up on us, and my friend, his first reaction was to run. So I grabbed his backpack and I stopped him. And then the police officer gets on. He's like, "Oh, what are you guys doing?" I'm like, "We're walking home from school. Like, this is our neighborhood. My parents pay the HOA here. Like, we're walking from school." He goes, "Oh, okay. Somebody said that they were burglarizing in the community center, and said it was too, like, you guys matched the description." So it was one of those stories.
Wow.
So then he's like, "Oh, because I stopped you and talked to you, so let me just take you guys home." And to be honest, now that I'm older, I realize that was him trying to make sure that we actually live in the neighborhood. So we get in the car. He takes us to my friend's house, and we get out. And then my friend's upset. He tells his parents. And I remember when I told my dad, everybody was upset. I was like, "Oh, you should have got the officer's name. Like, that was horrible. This and the third." But even from an early, like, for me, it was just like, because you see it in the movies, you understand what the relationship is between Black people and police officers. So it was whatever. And then the other one was, and this just shows you how rooted racism is in America. I was working at a restaurant, and all the white patrons loved me. Why? Because I was a good one. "Oh, Reggie, you spoke so well." Exactly. Anytime I told about my aspirations, like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna be doing my master's, this and the third," they would literally love me and praise me. And like, I use this to my advantage. I have a lot of regulars because of it. But they didn't realize that because their perception of Black people is to just be ignorant or uneducated or just a hoodlum or whatever, when they saw me, somebody who spoke well and was educated and had aspirations, they just praised me like I was, like, they just absolutely loved me. And they didn't realize that was rooted in racism, that was rooted in stereotypes, that was rooted in bias. So that was probably and it's tough because, like, you like to be praised as a person, but even when they were praising you, it didn't feel right. And this is a patron of that restaurant. He was a Republican politician, a local politician. And I remember he was on TV one time, and after he was off TV, he came to the bar. Him and his wife walked in, And you know, everybody's like, "Oh, we saw you on TV, cheering or whatever." And the first thing he does is like daps me up and like shakes my hand to like publicize that he has like black
Mm-hmm.
friends. And like I
Mm-hmm.
immediately just like and just like kind of walked away because like I'm
Yeah.
not gonna be your token black dude. So
Right. Right.
yeah, I mean the stories go on, but yeah, being black in America is just like the microaggressions and the overt racism.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes a part of your day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally hear you on that because since we're a military family, you know, we move a lot, and a lot of the communities that we have lived in so far have been primarily white. So we're, of course, a minority in these communities, and there's been a lot of times at work, you know, or even simply at a store where someone will make a comment about how, oh, you speak really well. And it's like, but why do you feel the need to make those comments, you know? Like, why do you feel the need to be surprised when you see a black person who's acting right, or they don't fit within this particular stereotype that people see on TV and in the movies all the time, you know? So I definitely hear you on that. And I want to go back to what you were saying before with regards to you feeling like you're always having these conversations with people at work. And I hear you because I feel like a lot of the times Black people, the people in the minority, we're the ones always having these conversations with people, like telling them, you know, like what you just said was really inappropriate. Like this was really rude. And do you understand why that was rude? And I just feel like sometimes it gets to a point where it's just like, come on, like why are we always the ones, you know, like trying to help you understand this? Why are we always the ones doing that?
Yeah.
So I totally hear you on that, and I so appreciate hearing your perspective. And I have one final question for you before I let you go.
Mm-hmm.
As far as inclusion and trying to bridge some of these racial gaps, whether in relationships and jobs and, you know, in our communities where we live, what are some of solutions you could think of to help bridge that gap?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest solutions is that economically, Black people as a whole, we got to continue. Well, one, we have to be given opportunity, and to be honest, like
Mm-hmm.
the conversation of reparations and things like that, I think the government needs to take like intentional action in
Mm-hmm.
investing into Black business and investing into Black communities, because at the end of
Mm-hmm.
the day, it's I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I think one of the negative things that happened from the civil rights movement was the way integration happened. And like I said, when you know before when they were segregated and it was like, oh, we don't want Black people here, we went and we created our own communities and we created our own like micro economies, and they
Mm-hmm.
burned it down. You understand? So the idea of trying to fit into to a space that's occupied by
Mm-hmm.
the American dominant people, white people, it's you're always going to be chasing something if that's the case because you're trying to fit
Mm-hmm.
into theirs. So
Mm-hmm.
ideally, I would love to see us as a community just grow economically. And I think, like I said, when it comes to inclusion, like like me, like okay, so everybody has to take it into their situation. Like for instance, me in my profession, I'm trying to grow my profession for my purposes, and
Right.
of course, like not everybody can be an entrepreneur or a business owner, whatever the case is. But
Mm-hmm.
in your own life, you have to see how you can grow. I don't necessarily think it has to be seat at their table. You know what I'm saying? I think that we got to continue
Mm-hmm.
to push the envelope, and I think yeah, we do need people to grow in corporate America at
Mm-hmm.
their jobs. I'm not saying abandon American economy.
Right.
It's just
Right.
that's kind of hard to create, but I do think that economically, Black people as a community, we got to continue to build ours and own ours. Because at that point,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I'm not asking you to see me as an equal. You see what I'm saying? Like, I feel like the one of the drawbacks of the fight for inclusion and diversity is that we're trying to fit in a space that was never created for us.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, back before the civil rights movement happened, we understood that. And because of that, we try to create our own community. The only reason those didn't survive and actually realize was because they were destroyed by angry white people. So that's my, like I said, that's my raw perspective. But like I said, I work in a company that's owned by Cubans, but I work in a company with a lot of white people, and I am trying to grow, and I am trying to grow my industry. So I'm not saying abandon all that, all that.
Right.
I'm just saying that, even myself, once I get to a point, I got to start finding something that I kind of want to do for my own kind of home. So, because at the end of the day, like how white people see us today is not going to change like this because it's so ingrained. So I think another thing, I'm sorry if I'm taking up too much time. Another thing is I think
no, you're fine.
We need to reform education. If
Absolutely.
from an early age, white people understood, or all people, including black people as well, if they understood what happened to this country, what was done in this country to black people, they wouldn't see us as a subpar race. They would understand our plight a little bit more. So from an early age, if things were taught, like the Tulsa race riots were taught, if the bloody summer of 1919 or whatever it was, if the actual horrors of slavery were taught correctly, if all those things from the late 1400s to now, even African history before that, they were taught correctly, people would have a proper perspective. And then from there, I think that would change how we interact socially a little bit. But that's only going to happen over a generation of time. But to actually affect how we move in America, it's economic. And like I said, we were never supposed to have a seat at the table. So fighting for a seat at the table, it's not going to change things in a grand scheme. But like I said, in a personal sense, we have to fight for everything we can get and try to build our communities.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much, Reggie, for joining me this afternoon. It was a pleasure talking to you. I'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. All right.
All right. So now I'm going to try to add Mildred. Let me see how to do that. And sorry if my finger is kind of covering the camera. Okay. Mildred. All right. My next guest is Mildred. I'm trying to add her now. Hey, Millie.
Hi, Winnie.
How's it going?
Oh, it's good. It's good. I'm excited.
Awesome. So you were listening to Reggie and hearing his perspective as a Black man in America. I want to continue with that conversation and ask you, as a mom, a Black mom of two Black sons, when you see these things happening in the country, and even hearing Reggie talk from his experience as a young Black man in America, what is going on for you when you see these things happening? What's your initial reaction?
Anger, lots and lots of anger, lots and lots of frustration. I don't know. I felt like something needs to be done. Like something has to break. Like I fear for my kids growing up. I see them. I have a lot of fear. I see them, and they're those nice, handsome, beautiful boys. And I look at them, and I'm like, wow, one day they're gonna be in a room or on the road or somewhere, and they're gonna be a threat to somebody, or just the assumption. I fear for my life and my boys, and I've put my sweat and blood to raise them to respect people. But I know
Mhm.
one day they're gonna fit that description of this kind.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's always in the back of my head
Mhm.
that that mindset is very, I don't even have words to put it.
Mhm.
I wrote down when you were talking to Reggie, you asked him a really good question about parenting in
Mhm.
America, and also that article you talked with him about being is immigrant is supposed to talk about this racial issue in America, and I'm like, yes, most definitely. As an
Mhm.
immigrant with two boys in America. They've never been to Haiti. They don't know their
Mhm.
backgrounds. So they're
Mhm.
Americans. So yes, I have to partake on that. And also,
Mhm.
I will share something personal that you said we need to prep our kids for, when in white America. I didn't even
Mhm.
have that chance to do that to my kids, to my son. I didn't
Mhm.
get the chance. Somebody already set that tone for him.
Mhm.
I,
Mhm.
at he was in kindergarten when he faced racial discrimination in school,
Mhm.
and at 5 years old, what do you tell him? What do you
Right.
say?
Right.
Where do you go from there? And it didn't just stop right there, and it happened at an age where he was um, finding his identity,
Mhm.
which was
Mhm.
very fragile. That he realized somebody said something to him. He realized his skin is inferior
Mhm.
to the other,
Mhm.
to his
Mhm.
white counterparts, and
Mhm.
he desired so much to be white because his friends told him that was the superior color.
Mhm. Wow.
I lived with that for 2 years. We had to seek therapy because he
Mhm.
would scrub his skin off because it was not good enough. That's not the color he wants to be.
Mhm.
This is bad because somebody
Mhm.
told him in kindergarten that his skin
Mhm.
is bad.
Mhm. And I've heard this before. I know I know the story. I know what happened to him. And hearing it again, even after I've heard it so many times, like it still makes me upset. It still gives me goosebumps, for a 5-year-old to have to experience that. And there are a lot of people, who talk about how slavery and racism was so long ago. Segregation, was so long ago. Why do we have to keep talking about these things? Why? And what you're describing right now is not something that happened years ago. It happened a couple years ago. So when someone says that to you, or when you hear someone say, why are these black people still talking about slavery and still talking about racism when it was so long ago? How do you respond to that, knowing your 8-year-old son has already experienced that?
I'm so quick to share my story to anybody who would listen, because I feel like some people are so out of touch with it, and
Mhm.
if they're willing to listen, I'll be like, let me tell you what happened to my so and so. But let me,
Mhm.
or if you're willing to participate, let me tell you what happened in my day-to-day life as a
Mhm.
black woman in America, um, or like shopping while black. That
Mhm.
statement, don't waste my time if you don't think you can afford this.
Mhm.
A realtor telling me to my face, don't waste my time if you don't think you can live here, not having checked anything, any background or anything like that.
Mhm.
I was like doing some reminiscing, getting ready for this talk with you, and I
Mhm.
remember my very first encounter with racism in America. And I never forget how that made me feel. I felt like something dislodged inside of my soul, like it was
Mhm.
broken. Like somebody didn't know me, was talking about me to my then boyfriend at the time, he's my husband now, told
Mhm.
him that his girlfriend smelled like watermelon and fried chicken.
What?
When he in school at a Christian college, I cried for weeks because I
Oh
couldn't
my God.
understand how somebody can make an assumption about me
Mhm.
I mean, maybe
without
I
even
do.
knowing you.
Yeah, I said maybe I smell like fried chicken. One day I ate fried chicken, but like constant, like this is what I
Mm-hmm.
smell. I just couldn't wrap my mind around it, and that was like my very
Mm-hmm.
first encounter. And then even then I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't understand it, and that
Mm-hmm.
it it took me a while. When it's happening to you, I guess to me, I can speak for me. I don't realize it instantly. This is what's happening because I don't
Mm-hmm.
go out thinking this is gonna happen. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But when it happened,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, did did this really just
That this
occur?
really
Like,
just happened. Right.
what's
Right.
going on here? Like you're making like trying to rationalize with your thoughts in that encounter. Like, what? No, that couldn't be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's a constant struggle as a Black woman in the workplace. For me,
Mm-hmm.
I encounter I've spoken to you constantly about that.
Mm-hmm.
And the most difficult part is being a mom raising two Black boys with a Black husband.
Mm-hmm.
It's a constant fear. I don't want to say I live in fear, but it's there creeping.
Mm-hmm. 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 A couple weeks ago, you posted on Facebook about an encounter that you had with the police. Um, would you mind sharing about that?
Yeah, that was maybe like three or maybe a month ago. I
Mm-hmm.
was coming from church and I haven't driven my car at night during COVID for a while. So it was my first
Mm-hmm.
time out. I didn't realize one of my headlights were out. And I'm coming on a curb and I saw the cop in the corner and I told my boys, put up, stay put, play nice. We're going to get pulled
Mm-hmm.
over. Without
Mm-hmm.
him doing anything, I just knew it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he rode behind me. I guess was reading my tags. Didn't pull me over then. And then he came next to me side by side, checking me out. Didn't pull me over then. So we rode
Mm-hmm.
together side by side for like a block or two. And then he rode behind me and he pulled me over and he told me the reason he pulled me over because my headlights were out. And I said, okay, I haven't driven in a while, so that's I'm sorry, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize that. Then he said, do I have a driver's license? And I'm like,
Why
yes.
would you be driving without one? Mm-hmm.
Is this car yours? I'm like, yes. Is it
Mm-hmm.
registered in your name? I said, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Can I see the papers? Yes, of course. I'm grabbing my papers. I hand him over, and then before he walked away, he came back. So if I were to open up your trunk or search your car, would I be finding anything suspicious? Maybe like drugs, maybe?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm like, no, officer. Oh, would anything weird jump out at me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like chuckling by then. I'm like, is he serious? He's like, no.
Right. Right.
I'm like, no. He's like, okay. So he went and searched before he left, he also asked me if I have a clean record. I'm like, check for yourself. I guess I do.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And he took his lovely time to find what he needed to find or couldn't find,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and left me alone. But those are the things that's like living while Black in America. That's what I
Right.
call it.
Right. And I'm hearing you say these things again, even though I've heard this, and I can't help but wonder what would have happened or could have happened had you questioned him.
Mm,
Had you asked, why are you asking me these questions if you only stopped me because of my headlights?
hmm
Did you feel like you could have asked those questions?
No, I was terrified. That's the event of George Floyd just got murdered on
Mm-hmm.
broad daylight on everybody
Mm-hmm.
could see it. I have two of my kids in the car with me. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just trying to get home. I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
say yes, sir, yes, massa, no, massa, trying to get home. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
I played safe. I know sometimes it doesn't always, even if you play nice or not, but I was just trying to get
Right,
home.
right, right. Yeah, this is just so crazy, and I think this is a part of the reasons why so many Black people, so many of us, are tired, and we just want change because these things, keep happening over and over again. You get stopped because of your headlights and you get asked all these different questions.
Mhm.
Last year, my husband and I were going on a road trip and we got pulled over by the cops. And that situation was a little bit funny, kind of looking back, because his initial reaction was to freeze up. Like,
Mm.
are you still there, Mildred?
It froze a little
Okay.
bit.
Yeah. It looks like I lost you for just a little bit, but
Mhm.
yeah, so the cop came to the door and Carl pretty much froze up. And afterwards, we were kind of laughing about it and joking about it because we were like, yo, like, you legit forgot how to speak English. Like, you legit forgot how to speak because
Mhm.
I think it was this um, fear in the back of his head, even though at the time he didn't realize it. But there's been so many of these situations, where Black people, Black men get pulled over
Mhm.
by the cops for no reason.
Yeah.
And even if they get pulled over for a reason, it doesn't end well. There's been so many of these situations. We were thankful that day that that officer was in a pretty good mood. It was at the beginning of his shift, and once we kind of got to talking, he realized that Carl is a soldier, so that kind of took on a different
Mhm.
conversation. But had we been like asking questions and kind of be like, why did you stop me, and trying to have that conversation, which would have been within our rights to do so,
Yeah.
it could have ended a different way. So I'm so glad that you felt comfortable sharing that with me and sharing that with our viewers.
Of course. Yeah.
Um, the other question that I have for you is in regards to your husband. You mentioned, you're raising two Black sons. You have a Black husband, and Clyde is a pretty tall dude, very muscular dude. Who, if you don't know Clyde, just by looking at him, you could be like, "Oh my gosh, this is a scary dude."
He
But
fits the
um,
description to the
he's like
T.
huge teddy bear. Yeah, like he's a big teddy bear. He's such a sweet guy. But if you don't know him, you might have this reaction of, oh, this might be a dangerous man. So
Mhm.
when Clyde tells you that he's going out for a walk or something like that, like how do you feel knowing these things are happening to Black men and other people of color in America?
Well, first of all, Claude is so cautious. He doesn't go out for a walk around the neighborhood. He does not. He
See,
stays
and
home.
and and that's like that that to me is so upsetting. It's so upsetting.
Yeah. He stays to himself a lot. He doesn't make friends.
Hmm.
He doesn't um we are involved in church community, but that's about it. With him,
Hmm.
what I do realize that with all that's going on, he suffers in silence. He doesn't talk about it.
Hmm.
He does
Hmm.
not talk about it. He does not let it let me see how it affects him because he's trying to be this, you know.
Right.
I
Right.
respect that. When he's ready to talk about it, which is not about this whole thing going
Mm-hmm.
on, he talks. But I know when he's hurting because he will not talk about it. We don't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I will
Mm-hmm.
open up and say, I am frustrated. How do you feel about what's going on? I
Mm-hmm.
will dig it out. I'm that
Mm-hmm.
type. I'm this annoying spouse that dig out information.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't talk. I know he's suppressing, trying to keep his feelings
Mm-hmm.
intact because he's a
Mm-hmm.
man. He's not supposed to feel. He's not
Mm-hmm.
supposed to hurt. But it's eating him up, and he doesn't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And
And mhm.
yeah, I
I am
respect
so
that.
glad that you brought that up because it makes me wonder how many of our Black brothers are suffering in silence. They're seeing all these things happening. Um, they're full of emotions. They're numb and they don't know what to say. Like Danny said, they don't know what to say, so
Yeah,
uh, they're suffering in silence.
yeah. The only other male in our life that when we found out about Ahmad, or his name,
It looks like we froze again. Mm,
can you see me now? The
yeah.
Ahmad Berry case. Um, our connective pastor, he called me, and because we always talk about like race and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, and he called me to make sure that I was okay, and Clyde and I were
Mhm.
okay. But I was like, "Are you okay?" He said, "I'm in my office trying to hold it together because, all of
Wow.
I'm trying to hold it together. I'm trying not to make a scene, Millie." I'm like, "I hear you."
Mhm.
And that's where we left it.
Mhm.
Black men,
Mhm.
like you said, they are suffering alone and they trying to,
Mhm.
stay strong when they see their own kind being lynched on the
Mhm.
street.
Mhm. 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 Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, it's just it's a lot. Danny says a lot of them are feeling anger and are doing their best to control that emotion, which
Exactly.
is very true. Hmm. Hmm.
Exactly.
It's very true. So, my last question for you, because I think Instagram is gonna kick me off here soon. Um, as as a mom, as a Black mom, knowing these things that are happening and how your children and your husband are being affected. What do you think that you personally and us as a community can do to help our Black brothers, especially when they're being faced with these situations, which is pretty much daily?
Yeah.
What do
Um,
you think we can do to help?
we can start within our home. I like
Hmm.
the fact that you create this platform to talk about this thing, this taboo that people really don't talk about, that is so unpatriotic to white America. This is a
Hmm.
great start. Um, I try to educate myself a lot
Hmm.
with African American history because I was not born and raised here, so I don't understand firsthand what is the
Hmm.
system.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I constantly am educating myself and also am educating my boys.
Hmm.
We will sit there and read books about it or watch docuseries about African American
Hmm.
history. Um,
Hmm.
Great history. What I'm trying to do within my little family is
Hmm.
nitpicking um, Clyde's grandmother's brain and get some history out of her as much as I can. So
Hmm.
I'm working on a
Hmm.
family history. I'm a
Hmm.
historian
Hmm.
for the family because I want
Hmm.
them to
I like that.
know. Yeah,
Hmm.
I want them to know. I want my boys to know
Right.
how
where
much
they come
we have
from.
overcome and how much they have to go.
Hmm.
The fight still continues. This is what your ancestors
Hmm.
had endured, and this is your fight, and this
Hmm.
is where you pick up. That's where I'm starting from my own little community, is to make them
Hmm.
aware that,
Hmm.
you know, you have a place in society. You have to pick up the baton and keep moving.
Hmm.
Whatever that looks
Hmm.
like for them, I don't know. But my role right now is to bring
Hmm.
awareness of how great they are as a Black man, and they're not inferior to anything or
Hmm.
anybody.
Hmm.
That's what I can contribute right now, is
Hmm.
make sure my boys are, their identity is solidified in who they are as a Black man.
Hmm. 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 Yeah, I really like that, and I really like the fact that you said, you're starting in your own home, you're starting in your own community, and I think that that's very powerful. As parents, like you said, and like Reggie said before you, we definitely need to be teaching our children these things, and to help them understand why it is that we do what we do, why it is that we fight for them and what we're fighting for in terms of, fighting systemic racism and
Mhm.
trying, to change things. So I really like that. All right. Do you have any final things that you would like to say to our viewers in terms of, diversity and inclusion and kind of what you think that on a larger scale, I guess, people could do?
Um, Talk about it. It's uncomfortable to you and to
Mm-hmm.
me, or talk about it. The more we talk about it, the
Mm-hmm.
more less comfortable it'll be. And also,
Mm-hmm.
I may need to address the Haitian American immigrant. I feel like sometimes they feel like, to those that I've spoken to,
Mm-hmm.
they feel like this is not their fight. I've heard them say before,
Mm-hmm.
um, this happened so long ago. Why are they still mad? I have heard them say that. And I would
Mm-hmm.
stop in my
Mm-hmm.
track and be like, whoa, 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 hold on a minute. Let's check some history
Right.
and see how long ago this was. I would love
Right.
my people to sit down and read books, look up, because when they pull you over, they don't see a Haitian immigrant. They see a Black
Right.
person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just like Reggie said, before someone decides, to treat you based on the color of your skin, they're not going to try to figure out if you're a descendant of a slave or if you're a Black immigrant from the Caribbean or from Africa or from somewhere else. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like I said, education is the one thing they can't take from you. They can take anything and
Mm-hmm.
everything else but that.
Absolutely.
So
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you creating this platform. I wish we can do this on a weekly basis. We talk about it until we're numb, until they're tired of hearing us.
Yeah.
Uh, until,
Mm-hmm.
you know how they were tired of Dr. King chanting down on Alabama. We need to talk about it like
Mm-hmm.
that. So they be
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm sick
Yeah.
and tired of Winnie bringing this up all the time. Well, let's
Mm-hmm.
be sick and tired enough to do something about this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we definitely need to continue talking about those things, and I would encourage our viewers to do the same. Don't just talk about it on social media or do a little hashtag or post something. Actually, do something. Take action steps, and try to follow through with the things that you're posting on the social platform. So I
Hmm.
definitely like that you said that. And I think, hold on, somebody said something. Um, I think I lost it. But yeah, so Instagram is going to kick me off here in a little bit because it's almost been an hour since we've been on here. I want to thank you so much, Mildred, for joining me.
All right, my
We'll
pleasure.
we'll be back live again next Saturday on Facebook to talk about a different topic, but it's going to be a very important one. So if you're watching, be sure to go to our Facebook page, follow the page so you can get information about what next week's topic is going to be, and we look forward to seeing you there.
Yes.
Bye, Lily.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you guys for watching.